always questioning this life. What is my purpose? What am I here? If this is my history, thank God I know my history, because in the US, a lot of African Americans don't know where they're from. They don't even when I talk and I share my stories, some of them cry, like when I was telling one of my clients, I love her so much, Erica, I was sharing with her how I was used to introducing myself. Chitago Kirigo, Akaboga, and then like you introduce who you are and which family you belong to, which now people will know, then the clan and your connections. And I just want to explain a little bit, just for anybody who'd be hearing this. When I think about my ancestors, even understanding, I remember my sis and I, when I think back, we were young, and this is when we have just a mom and dad, right? But we knew our cousins before us, their dad had 2 wives, right? And then we grew up in this environment where there were 4 wives. Guka had his house in the center and the 4 homes around. And we never got into his home, but we could go into every home. And we never felt animosity. When it was dinner time, we all ate together. I never even knew that this is another wife. I just knew my grandmothers and my granddad, so it was a big family. When I've been married, and I know that it's not always easy, so I couldn't imagine how complex and how complicated and how if they were emotional. But I remember my sister and I, we might have been like 10 or 11. And at the time we were really noticing boys, and boys are noticing us. And we were like, why would you want to, like, I will never. And I remember holding in Kikuyu culture, you don't do this to your elders. And we were like, we will never, marry a guy who has more wives, or other wives, or like never ever, but we're educated. And you could see that even that culture dies out. Even my uncle, his 2 wives. Yeah, well, these deep roots of mine, how they've shaped me, and I'm gonna go back to my Guka Karuri, is the work ethics. Like, you know that when you get up, there's an expectation that you're going to contribute to your family, and that it doesn't matter how old you are, how small you are, everyone's efforts are expected, and are appreciated, so that work ethics, getting up early in the morning, having a schedule, being disciplined. I remember the first time I was like, I am not getting up at 5:30 in the morning to milk some cow. And I remember saying that to my siblings. Everybody got up and went and did their thing. I didn't, and I did not see breakfast. And that was it. And he never yelled. He was a man of action, tiny guy. And he would do this and everybody would come. He never yelled. He never called your name. He would look at you and do something like that. And you knew he was talking to you. He was the vet of the family, of the village, although he never got educated. He told us school was very important. He built the first school in this village on his property, and said that all the children had to go to school because he was a product of colonialism. He to survive, he had to ride horse race, because he's got that tiny body, and as a vet, he took care of all the horses. So I think the Brits really respected him in that way. So he also was the first person at that age that I heard speak English, and we thought it was the funniest thing. Like all the people who were Shoshos and Gukas, they didn't know English, right? But he knew words, but because he had to survive, and he knew that the way out of here was through education. So that's one thing he embedded in all of us, get educated, get educated. I think that was a lesson that was passed on even through his sons. They went abroad to get educated. Even my dad at that time, in the late 50s, later he went to school. He went to school in England. That was the first that Kenyan has gone, to go get educated, right? For him, he was in airport safety as an engineer, having influence on the airports in this country. Some strips in the Mara airstrips. So that was his thing, flying and engineering. But yeah, education was another thing. And then, and most importantly, family. To see my grandfather, 4 wives, each wife has almost 8 to 10 children. We would gather every night in circle outside, sing, look at the stars, and he would just, somebody say a story today, a new person. So everybody got an opportunity to present. So maybe even to be able to stand up and speak up when it was your turn. Because that's one lesson I think he was trying to teach me. Like, you don't talk when nobody's, when you're, yeah. I know, again, one time we had this conversation. He asked me, why was I up on the hill when I should have been with everybody getting the cows back to the meadow? And I said, well, I didn't want to ruin my new shoe from Germany. Oh my God, who told me to say that? He told me to take out my shoe. He said, like, does anyone have shoes over there? And I was like, no. And I was like, no, okay, never mind, I'll just go with these, So he was like, I'm going to level you up to humanity. He was like, these American kids. But I thank God for that. We were grounded. And I also think that my father thought it was a great idea for us to spend time with them, to know them. And it became a habit for us. So we come here even when they're not there. But we come here and we feel connected to them.